Hi, my name is Allison Johnson, and I decided to do my contemporary health issue presentation on anxiety. Anxiety is something that I personally have gone through in the last 3 years of my life, and I feel that it's really important to bring recognition to how detrimental and life-altering this mental disorder can be. Over the last few years, anxiety has increased throughout our world because of events that have happened that just devastate us as people. Um, the shootings that happened in Paris, in San Bernardino, in Orlando, they've all struck fear in the minds and hearts of people and citizens in general. Terrorism is a big thing as well. So this is just a kind of like a testimony of how anxiety has played a part in my life and how it could have played a part in someone else's life. I developed anxiety about 3 years ago, and I developed anxiety because I was going through a hard time in school, and I kind of gave up when it came to my grades, and I ended up failing 3 semesters here at CBU, and luckily, by the grace of God and by the grace of the administration here at CBU, I'm still here and I'm still working on my degree. But there are long-term effects of what I did, and that is anxiety when it comes to my school grades. And unfortunately, a lot of students in today's society go through this because of the importance put on academics, which there should be importance on academics, but it's the stress of constantly going to school and making sure that you get a career to support yourself for the rest of your life. And when you're 18, 19, 20, you don't know what you want to do for the rest of your life. So it's a stressful and anxiety increased time in your life. And I personally went through that. Now, not only do I go through anxiety with school, but I go through anxiety in my everyday life with my family, with my friends. And I have a hard time when my family leaves for the day and I don't know if I'm going to see them again. And that kind of stuff. Anxiety can really take a toll on your everyday life, and that's been really hard for me. Anxiety takes a toll on your physical, on your emotional, on your spiritual, and your mental stability, and it affects all of those things. Because of my anxiety, I can't think of the word, a side effect of anxiety physically is you can develop asthma from that. And unfortunately, about 1.5 years ago, I was diagnosed with asthma because of my anxiety. Once my anxiety goes away, my asthma will start healing, but for now, since I still have anxiety, my asthma is still there. So that is a physical effect that it's had on me, and it has on other people as well. A physical effect that it might have on someone else, I haven't had this experience, but is that they can lose a lot of weight, they can lose a lot of sleep, they can just kind of start being unhealthy as a person because of all the fear that's in them and all the anxiety that's in them and in their minds. A mental way that anxiety can affect someone is that whenever someone tells you something, or someone goes somewhere, or someone does something, you always are thinking the worst case scenario. And unfortunately, it's a hard thing to deal with because you're always thinking, I would rather think the worst than the best, because if the worst happens, then I was prepared for it. And that's a huge side effect of anxiety, and it just gives you this negative outlook on life, and you should have a positive one. And so I personally have been working on that myself, to have a more positive outlook on life and not be as negative. A emotional effect that anxiety can play on a person is that your emotions are like a roller coaster. One day you can be completely fine and up in the air, and the next day you can plummet and just feel like you don't even want to be there. You get very depressed, very worried, very not yourself, and you just become this person that is closed off from everybody and doesn't want to do anything with anybody. Lastly, it can affect you in your spiritual walk, because obviously God is always with us, and God wants us to acknowledge that He's always with us, and it can really affect your relationship with God, and it can really make you question things about God and whether He's there or whether He's not, or it really makes you doubt who He is and what He says in His promises. I haven't gone through any treatments necessarily for anxiety. I've had conversations with my pastor at my church to kind of help with my anxiety. I have an inhaler for my asthma, and I talked to my parents about a lot of my anxiety that's going on in my life. One thing that I had to do to get over my anxiety, I found this sermon online, and it was a sermon on how to be brave and how to conquer your anxieties. And he gave us 5 ways to conquer our anxiety. And ever since I watched this sermon, my anxiety has decreased, and I've been able to live my life normally. So I thought I would share with you an alternate way to maybe get rid of some anxieties in your life. So the first step in what he told us was breathe. So to physically breathe. So that would be a physical way that could help you in your anxiety rather than affect you in your anxiety. So he wants you to physically breathe in and out, breathe in through your nose and breathe out through your mouth, and lower your heart rate so your heart isn't racing as fast as it normally does when you're going through an anxiety attack or panic attack. So he wants you to physically breathe. Step 2 would be to remember. So this would be a mental way to kind of help you through your anxiety, remembering God's promises, remembering all those times you overcame an anxiety attack, remembering all those times that you thought the worst case scenario, but it didn't happen in the good case scenario. He quoted Joyce Meyer, and he said that worry is a down payment on a problem that you might not even have. And to remember those times that you didn't have the problem you thought you were going to have, and the times that you could get over that anxiety was a huge thing for me. So the third one is ask. So basically meaning pray to God and asking Him to help you overcome and conquer that anxiety. And that would be a spiritual way to treat your anxiety and help it decrease as time goes on. And honestly, I found in that that prayer is something that has tremendously worked for me. Relying on God instead of my own self controlling my own anxiety is something that was hard for me because I really like to control everything. Most people with anxiety do, but it helped me overcome a little bit of my anxiety and relinquishing some control to God and asking Him for help. The fourth step is visualize, and so that's, visualize positivity. Visualize things that maybe you wouldn't visualize because of your anxiety. Instead of visualizing that, for example, my brother could pass away driving to Disneyland, I visualize that my brother has a good day at Disneyland and returns home safely. And that's also another mental way of going about getting over anxiety, and I found that visualizing actually really helps me since I'm a visual learner as well. The last step was elevate, so this would also be a spiritual way to help you get over your anxiety. Elevating is taking everything you have and giving it to God, your worries, your stresses, your anticipations, all of your thoughts, taking all of that and physically lifting it, and emotionally and mentally and spiritually lifting it and elevating it to God, who is the ultimate one who can control everything and is sovereign over everything. So this was a sermon that I just stumbled upon one day, and ever since then I found that my anxiety has decreased, and I hope that maybe one day I can help share this with someone else that's been going through anxiety, because I know that this is a huge thing in our world today, and there might not be huge stories about it online like there are about drug addicts or alcoholics or obesity or something like that, but I think that's what makes this more important. I think it, not more important, but just as important is that this is sometimes overlooked, and it's brushed off as something that maybe everyone goes through every now and then, but a real, genuine anxiety disorder is something that is life-altering, and it's something that can really affect who you are as a person. It can affect your family, and it can affect your walk with God, and all of those things are so important. And so I felt like anxiety was something that I wanted to talk about, and I hope that I did anxiety justice in helping someone understand how important this mental disorder is in the world. Thank you for your time, and thank you for this class. I've really learned a lot.